When I'm travel journaling, I often will concentrate on the palm trees if I'm lucky enough to be in an environment where they grow, because I think they're so poetic, so lyrical, so graceful, and so different from anything I see in Colorado. I'd like to share this demo with you and show you a couple of really simple approaches. And for this, I'm just going to use my watercolors that I travel with and a micron pen. Any permanent ink pen will do. I like something with a smaller nib, and I like working with a pen that's PN, that stands for plastic nib. Just playing with the silhouette of a palm tree can be very satisfying, especially if you are working from memory and you just want to include some dark, dramatic shape on top of a watercolor drawing. So a silhouette is really a nice approach. It's helpful to consider three parts of a palm tree: the trunk, this center section, and the fronds. Palm trees are divided into two categories: those with palmate fronds, where they're like fans, or those with pinnate fronds, where they're more like feathers. I'm going to focus on a date palm because that's what is primarily growing in Morocco. And the date palm not only has the trunk with a lot of texture from where the fronds have either shed off naturally or been cut. At the top is this kind of floral bunch, and out of that comes the dates. And there are these little tendrils, and the dates come down here, and then the fronds grow up out of that. Here's a photograph of what those dates look like, and there's a million varieties, okay, maybe 60 varieties of dates that are edible. Here you can see some of them. So these clusters of fruit might look a little different, might be a different color, different size, but frankly, they're up so high from where you're normally going to be standing. Unless you're in a date farm, you're not really going to see that, except to know that it's a lot of texture under the fronds. So the first thing to consider is, what's the proportion of the palm tree you want to sketch? Take a look at the trunk and determine if the trunk is more than half the length of the entire image. In this quick sketch, I put the halfway mark is about here, and you'll notice that the fronds are above the halfway mark compared to this long, long, long trunk. So take a look at the proportions and just sort of get that in your head. The other thing is that the trunk often is going to be slightly more narrow at the top. This doesn't hold for every palm tree, but most of them, they're slightly more narrow at the top than at the bottom. That also gives it a sense of perspective of it going farther away from you. And the other thing besides the proportion to consider are these three things. What's the overall shape? Where are the shadows? And what's the texture? So to start with, most palm trees, all the trunks, have to start a cylinder type shape. And now, how do we get that cylinder to look 3D? Well, in pen, you can add dots or stippling for that effect here. You could also do straight lines for hatches, but this is my favorite, the kind of scribbly line. So I would come in with a scribbly line after I've drawn the basic outline. And the other thing is, with any of these things in nature, they're not going to be solid and a straight line on the side. So I'm just going to add a little texture. And then I come in with a scribbly line, and to make it look more 3D, I want it a bit darker on one side than through the whole thing. And so I'm just using my scribbly line, and I'm going to get some texture coming across. And you'll notice when you're looking at a real palm that many of these textured lines create sort of a curved shape. And I can just wiggle my pen and not be too concerned. And that's how I'm getting a cylinder to look 3D. Now, that can be used on the actual palm. So here's the palm tree where I drew the outside shape of the trunk and made sure that it was uneven, and then I came in with my texture. And one of the marvelous aspects of travel sketching is that you just want to give a hint of something. You don't have to overwhelm yourself with all the details. Look at this palm tree. I only came in every few spaces to show that texture. I didn't have to do each one. Same here. I did a little more texture, concentrating on one side, in this case the left side, so that it looks like the sun or the light is shining from the right. Now for this section, I've really just scribbled and tried to make that a lot darker. Again, if there are actual dates up here, they're gonna just appear as a bunch of textured kind of elements, but you don't have to draw each individual thing. Now the fronds are great fun. Again, most of the date palms that are in Morocco, they have the leaves or the fronds that come up with the individual leaves sticking out. But honestly, you don't really have to draw that. You can just give the sense of overlap and movement, and that looks like a palm tree to me. I don't have to give all those details of each individual leaf. On this one, you can see a few more details just to get the shape, and that was all I needed. And then I'm going to add the water. Here, I'll do one from start to finish for you so that you can see the process. And there you go, palm tree in under 2 minutes. You'll notice that I'm not particularly careful with exact local color. I'm just playing with some of the colors that jump out to me, and I'm working very quickly. You'll also notice that I'm putting more of a blob over the fronds just to give the feel. I'm not worried about painting in each individual frond. And I just want to be sure that I've got this value, the darks going to lights, included in my shadow. I know you're going to have a blast painting or sketching or just recording the palm trees that you see on vacation. And remember that you're just developing your own shorthand so that when you look at this page in your travel journal, you're brought back to the memory of it. If you wanted an exact replica, just use your camera. But for some feeling of where you've been and to emphasize the memory piece, the part where you're creating memories in your page, then just go for it and develop your own shorthand in this simple subject.